Hi, my name is Pamela Strum, and this is the second time recording this. I recorded it the other day with other videos, and this is the only one that came out garbled, unfortunately, because it's a really fun share for me and to tell you about, because it's something that has excited me in life of having witnessed someone demonstrate levitation. So this video has to do with unexpected relationship advice that came about from a renowned scientist and all things that have to do with levitation. So I'm going to tease you a little bit right off the bat. If you're just have a moment to tune in to me, I'm going to tell you what the scientist said. But if you have a little bit more time, stick around for my story, because I'll give you the science associated with levitation behind relationships, and then share what was said about the levitation itself in this conversation with the scientist. And the scientist will remain anonymous because I did not ask his permission to share the story. So I'm respecting his privacy. And the advice is, are you ready for this drum roll? Something you all know already. Slow down, slow down. That is the big advice for a relationship, any kind of relationship, certainly a romantic relationship. But even if you want to deepen friendships and maybe find your soul tribe, or any kind of relationship, maybe you already know the person, but you want to have deeper relationships, deeper connections. So let me tell you how this all came about. I guess it was, I don't know, at the end of 2021, one of my soul sisters, Nicole Brown, she's an energy worker, completely amazing. Tune into her for sure if you feel called. Came to meet me because she was in the area where I live with her son, and she wanted to meet me, and I wanted to meet her. I only knew her from video conferencing like I'm doing with you right now. And we were talking and having so much fun, letting it go, because we both do energy work. So we were able to go to our extremes. We didn't need to edit what we said or have anyone roll in their eyes. We were having a good time laughing. And I shared something quite astounding of having witnessed a demonstration of levitation with her. So about 10 years ago, my daughter in her school had science. There was a science week every single year in this school. And I live in a town where there's a major university, and there are many scientists. And some of these scientists in their own profession would be like rock stars. They're the rock stars of scientists, and they're incredible with what they've done in their profession. And I think it's really cool. They're super duper fun. And, they have children. I have children. Sometimes we all go to the same schools and the functions. So I get a chance to meet these people. In addition to talking to people a lot, I like to talk to people. I'm out and about town. My local cafe seems to attract these scientists. I guess they drink coffee. And so I've mentioned this before. Maybe you all know this about me, or those of you who've been watching me for a while. I'm not the coolest person. I have throughout my life run into famous people many times. And I've got to tell you, I don't see why I shouldn't be excited about someone who I highly admire, even if they don't know who I am. But maybe I'm aware of their work, whether it is a movie star or a rock star or a scientist. And I'm excited, and I like to approach people and talk to them, or I go the other extreme. I'm such a nerd, and I'm so awkward that I'm completely silent to not make them uncomfortable. So this particular scientist, professor, I'm going to put him in that category. So the school opened up during this science week for parents to attend this particular demonstration, understanding that it's pretty amazing to watch levitation, and they anticipated parents would want to join in. And so they put it in the main room of the school where they have big gatherings. And this was mind blowing to me. My kids didn't get it. They were little. And I kept saying to them, do you realize how lucky you are that you're growing up seeing this? And okay. But I was delighted. And so I have my toys with me to give you a visual of how this demonstration played out. So this is the story I'm telling Nicole Brown about this moment. So this is actually, this is a pizza tray, but pretend that it is what looks like a silver colored tray, a solid tray. And that the professor used in the levitation demonstration with a disc that looked like a CD. So I have a silver looking coaster of mine. And in the demonstration, he took what looked like a CD out of a very cold container. And the levitation looked like, once he got it going, was the disc circling around the inside perimeter of the tray or whatever it was. But what absolutely almost had me jumping up crying the same way you would see in a rock concert when people get excited about their rock star, is that he flipped the tray, the professor, and the disc flipped with it and levitated upside down. How phenomenally cool and mind-blowing is that? And what he said, there was a brief moment for questions, was that the disc itself was lined with finely ground sapphires. And that a scientist in Israel had ground the sapphires, and it was coated with that, and that helped create the capacity for levitation. So 10 years ago, and I say this as well, if I find out about the technology, it's probably fully flourished and being used in full capacity. So my brain is all over the place figuring out, well, what else is this being used for? Is there a capacity to levitate bodies? And so in doing energy work and doing things in an organic way, with an utter belief that if we activated the other strands of our DNA, the junk strands of our DNA, that we would have these, what I say are superpowers. We all have superpowers that are connected to our more energetic expression and our energy body. And we have the capacity to do things that as a carbon-based body, we don't believe that we can actually do. Certainly, levitation's on my list as something that's awesome, right? And we can do it. Why not? Why can't we? Why can't we bifurcate out of our bodies? Trifurcate. They did it what was the show that the science-y show everyone watched when I was growing up? I was going to say Star Wars, but it was Star Trek. Okay. So I'm getting excited already. So after this presentation, I run into this scientist all the time at school events in my cafe. And I am bubbling over with enthusiasm. And I'm talking to him saying, I'd love to sit down. May I buy you a cup of coffee sometime? And, I'd love to ask you some questions, because at the time I was putting together my modalities and I'm working with crystalline energy and this utter belief that we have these abilities within us. So I wish to be activated by listening to him give his nuggets of wisdom. Like, I will buy sapphires and hold on to them if there's this capacity to levitate, absolutely. So I would see him and introduce him to other scientists. So you can imagine my enthusiasm. This particular person, who I find out from a friend who knows him personally, he's a bit shy. He's a bit introverted. And probably my extreme enthusiasm could seem overwhelming. And it got to the point where it almost seemed like he was trying to run away from me rather than having a conversation. So, my husband witnessed it. He's like, you've got to stop. I mean, you're scaring this poor man. So life goes on. I stop running into him. Our children are in different schools. And then there's the whole COVID situation, and I don't see him at all. And a couple years go by and I don't see the scientist at all. And then lovely Nicole Brown comes to have dinner, and I tell her this phenomenal story about what happens living in this town. Every once in a while, we get to witness things like levitation and how cool. And I've always wanted to have a conversation with him. If only he'd let me buy him some coffee. The very next morning, one of the first times I've been back to my cafe, entering inside after the whole shutdown thing. And my husband and I get our coffee. We're waiting for them to make it. And Professor walks into the cafe. Oh my gosh, this is my big chance because no one else is around. He knows who I am. He waves. To me, that's the invitation for me to come up to him and ask him a few questions. So I said, Professor blank, may I ask you a few questions? I was just talking about you yesterday to a friend of mine and that incredible demonstration you did 10 years ago with levitation. And he's a humble man and quite lovely. And he humored me because what else was he going to do? We were all waiting for our drinks. And so I decided to launch it. My husband did try to pull me back. He's like, Pamela, don't do it. Don't do it. I'm like, are you kidding me? This is like the universe telling me it's time. So it was kind of funny because over these 10 years, seeing levitation, telling you now, excites me. And to the professor, it was almost like a toss-off, like, oh yeah, that old thing. Yeah, that's a real crowd pleaser. Almost as if you had a party trick that you whip out at parties to amuse everyone. And it was almost like this was his party trick. And it also seemed that certainly levitation and the subject of levitation has long moved on in science from what he had shown us, but still my big chance. So I asked him a few questions. I mentioned the sapphires. So for those of you who work with crystals and also crystalline energy, sapphires were being used. And my question for him had to do with taking the disc out of a cold container, because I know from Chinese medicine, from those of you who don't know, I'm an acupuncturist and herbalist from a Chinese medicine tradition. Cold is very contracting, and we all know that it slows things down. So how could he have created this momentum? And I said to him, Professor, we all know it's not gravity, of course. So to get that centrifugal spiraling, was it a magnetic momentum, you know that amusement ride that pins you against the wall, it spins so fast, and you're like, except this didn't have a wall. It was an open disc, and he turned it upside down. It was an open disc. And so of course it's not gravity. It's what? I said, is it magnetism? I said, so why cold? Why would you want to slow it down? And what he said, ready, relationship people, I'm going to read it so I get it right. Although, it's not an exact quote because I wrote it down after I had gotten home. And, it's either precise or close enough. The cold slows the wave down, wave as in frequency. Have you all seen my presentation on the equation of creation, 1 + 1 = 3? I mean, I do a lot of talking about frequency, and maybe I'll pin some of my other things to this video. The cold slows the wave down, so electrons that normally have nothing to do with each other can find each other and form a bond. So waves that would normally have nothing to do with each other. Now, like frequency attracts like frequency. But sometimes one wishes to slow the process down so that a bond could be formed. And I guess once that bond could be formed, you can do all kinds of miraculous, amazing things. That's Pamela's interpretation. But as soon as Professor said that, I felt chills shooting through my body like nuts. And I knew that's my internal system to pay really, really good attention. And I knew right then and there that I would be doing a presentation to you all and sharing this information about relationships. I always knew I wanted to talk about levitation and this experience, but relationships. So even when it comes to non-sentient life, the capacity to slow down, to find we are of a molecular nature. So our molecules can find each other and we can form bonds. It was so simple. We all know this. It's so profound. So I urge all of you all the time, from the negatively polarized control structure, from the time we're in school, we are taught to be busy and do, and we seem to have this bias toward busy people being more, having more value, or you seem to be doing more with your life, or somehow it's good to be so busy. And I always laughed at that, because how about simply being in the moment the way kids are and enjoying yourself and going with what you wish to do and just slowing it all down? What if you were for the day simply watching nature and breathing, and that felt good in your day? Why isn't that valued? Right? If that made you happy and brought you joy and true being in the moment, enjoying the moment, like, there is an accomplishment for your entire life. So I loved this. How many times are we out and we're not paying attention, or we're so busy zipping around that we miss that person who tried to get our attention, or we don't have that conversation with someone that allows us to form a bond, even with people in our own lives. You get to that point in life where the only thing, like, what do you want for your birthday? What do you want? I want your time, right? And time's an illusion, but how about, I want your now moment? Could you imagine? I want your now moment. I want you now. Just how about your attention? Because where you place your attention, energy flows. So that allows that bonding to happen. So I was getting all these chills. I knew I'd be talking about it. And I know I don't need to break this down. I mean, you all know this already. But I was absolutely thrilled. So for those of you who wish to continue, who are doing energy work, who work with conducting energy, and I'm sure you all know that water is a conductor, and you know that metal's a conductor, right? If there's an electrical storm, you want to stay away from water, you want to stay away from metal. And so I said to the professor, well, was it silver? Did you use silver? And he said, no, not silver or gold. Those were not used for levitation conduction. He said what were the metals used to conduct for levitation? So he said the metals were copper, aluminum, lead, and tungsten. So I know that you all know that there are copper wires, and certainly that's used for conducting electricity, and then we have to wrap them and ground them. But to keep things safe, but an extra little Pamela thought on using copper. The buildings, and they're usually old buildings, the old domes, and you see them in cathedrals and buildings that are all around the world. There seem to be certain structures that have similar architecture, and domes can be, regardless of the culture, you'll see domes and they're capped with copper. So if you can imagine that maybe those are massive energy conductors, and just a fun thought, like, why not? Why wouldn't you build building structures to conduct energy and then share that energy that's conducted? So some of you know what I'm talking about and alluding to right here. So that's for all of you. But for levitational purposes, so if we had all those buildings all around the world conducting energy a certain way, my gosh, maybe we'd all be levitating and bifurcating and projecting our bodies all over the place. Remember in Star Trek? Right? They would appear through, like, part of them would be someplace, and then all these little particles would drop in, and then it would be like another version of that creature. So why not? Just a thought, a fun thought of me talking to the professor, the scientist. So there you have it, everybody. Relationship advice. As soon as he said it, I'm like, we could be talking about people. but we were talking about levitation. So I hope this was fun for you to listen to, and I hope you have a wonderful day. And certainly for this time where we've been isolated from each other, why not use this information to start forming those deeper relationships and bonds again? So much fun. Bye, everybody.